Congratulations. You've just won a ticket to freedom. You see, freedom occurs when the spiritual journey ends. And the spiritual journey ends when you realize there is no distance to the destination, and there is no person to embark on a journey. That you are already exactly where you want to be, and you can never be anywhere else. However, the mind is always grasping at things, but this thing you are looking for cannot be grasped. It is like air, the ungraspable. You see, it has been said, where you are looking for. It's not right. What you are looking for is already where you are looking from. So here we are, looking for all of the freedom, and yet nothing that we see or yet nothing that we experience can ever really give us freedom. Because freedom is the nature of what you already are. So it is the seeking of freedom that prevents you from finding it. Now this gives us a bit of trouble now, doesn't it? Because how can you find something unless you first seek it? But if you were looking for buried treasure and you had a treasure map and you looked at the map and you found that you were already standing on the X that marks the spot, would you need to seek the treasure? You see, the first clue on our treasure map is that what you are looking for is only found in the present moment. And what this means is that it is always here with you, no matter what you're doing, no matter what you experience. And so it's waiting for you whenever you're done messing about in this world. Which leads us to the second point, which is it can only be found within you. Let me, for a moment, give you a bit of a disclaimer, because in the spiritual community, we often talk a lot about paradoxical ideas, things that don't make any sense at all. And sometimes we just kind of nod our heads and agree because it sounds good. But you'll often hear me talk in two kinds of ways. And that is, I'll talk to you as an individual, and I'll talk to you as the true nature of what you are. You see, because most of us identify as an individual, someone on a spiritual journey seeking enlightenment or freedom or whatever. And so from this perspective, we are on a journey to finding ourselves, but you are already yourself. And once you find yourself, you find freedom. But this is not your personal self. This is not a girl's trip to Miami kind of finding yourself. Girls. This is finding the universal essence of what you are, that in which we all are. Now, one way of looking at this is when you break reality down into its fundamental parts, and you find that there are only two things that really exist. There is an infinite array of changing experiences upon the backdrop of an unchanging awareness. And you are that unchanging awareness. But every human being since the beginning of history have identified with their changing experiences. And so the practice of self-inquiry is the act of becoming aware of all that is changing and disidentifying with those changing things. So you look at your body and you say, well, is my body changing? After all those donuts, you betcha. Are your thoughts changing? Obviously. You can't be your thoughts. Is your mind changing? Your mind. Yeah, you just can't make up your mind. Does your personality change? Perhaps your borderline personality disorder would have something to say about that. The point is just to be aware of the changing experiences, and that automatically creates some space between you and the things that you experience. You see, this awareness that I speak about is freedom, but its true name is consciousness. Now, consciousness is the transcendent aspect of what we are. Think about it this way. We exist between two polar opposite realities, an external world and an internal world. The external world is of limitation, temporariness, and form, and the internal world is infinite, it's limitless, it's eternal, and it's formless. And we exist all along the spectrum. Our body exists present in the temporary world, and consciousness is the eternal, the infinite, the formless aspect of what we are. And then you have different things in between, like the mind is the gateway between the temporary world and the eternal. And the soul is somewhere over here. You go from completely undifferentiated, which means all the same. We are all the same one consciousness. And as you grow closer to the temporary world, you become more and more unique. So your body is unique in the way that it has never been created before. You are one of a kind. Congratulations. Take a moment to just appreciate yourself, love yourself, and be happy. Unless you're a twin, then I guess you're not that special. And so we have to realize that consciousness cannot be harmed or affected by any of the experiences. It is pure, it is indestructible. And you see, most people are not aware of this aspect of themselves. They exist primarily in the mind realm or in the body realm. And if you're spiritually minded, perhaps you identify with the soul, which is good, but you want to keep going. Because if you keep going, you realize total freedom and liberation. Now, it's important to have a certain foundation of knowledge, of understanding what we're even talking about. But soon, it's important to have first-hand experience. Because unless you have actual experience of what we are speaking about, then these are just words, fancy words, superb words, but ultimately fruitless. And so in this moment now, you may close your eyes and begin becoming aware of all of the things that arise in your experience. All of the things that arise and fall away that you perceive with your senses. So you will hear noises arising and falling back into the silence. You will feel the sensation of your feet on the ground or your butt in a chair. You might feel hungry. You might see thoughts. You might feel annoyed or irritated. Or you might feel good. You might be at peace. And all of these things are objects in your experience, which means that you cannot be them. There is a separation from them, from you. No different than objects in physical space. It's just that the inner world is far more subtle and less obvious. And as you get comfortable becoming aware of the objects arising in your awareness, you want to begin asking yourself, who is that which is aware? And where is this awareness? Who am I? What is the source of this awareness? And as the spiritual teacher Mooji often says, can the perceiver be perceived? If the answer is yes, well then who is perceiving that one? You see, what you are cannot be perceived because you are one with that. As it has been said, the sharpest knife can cut all things, but it can never cut itself. The most powerful scale can weigh anything in the universe, but it can never weigh itself. And the hottest fire in existence can burn away all things, but it can never burn itself. So too, you cannot see yourself because you are yourself. It is more simple than simple. Don't overthink it. In fact, don't think at all. Because the mind cannot take you where we are going. It is only your eyes that will see.